Genesis here. So we're going to take a look here at Genesis 16 through 19. So we're still in Abram's life. And I say Abram because he is yet to be called Abraham or Abraham, depending on how you pronounce it. I like Abraham. That sounds really cool. So we're in 16, and we're going to make our way through a couple of chapters of his life. I heard something interesting recently, how we think that so much of the Old Testament Genesis should be about Abraham and about his life. And actually, the bulk of Genesis is about Joseph, who is a foreshadow of saving through someone else that everyone is saved, and has a foreshadowing of Jesus, who is the Savior who we're all saved through. So interesting thing that I heard the other day. So I thought that was pretty cool. All right, so let's dive in. Genesis 16. So now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children, but she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. She said to Abram, "The Lord has kept me from having children. Go sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her." Abram agreed to what Sarai said. So after Abram had been living in Canaan 10 years, Sarai, his wife, took her Egyptian slave, Hagar, and gave her to her husband to be his wife. He slept with Hagar, and she conceived. When she knew she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. Then Sarai said to Abram, "You are responsible for the wrong I am suffering. I put my slave in your arms, and now that she knows she is pregnant, she despises me. May the Lord judge between you and me. Your slave is in your hands," Abram said. "Do to her whatever you think best." Then Sarai mistreated Hagar, so she fled from her. Now, I'm just going to pause right there and figure out what we got going on. Okay, so Abraham has been promised to be a great nation and that he will have a child. Let's go back a minute to 15. I got to go all the way down to the bottom. Sorry about that. Okay, 15. After this, the vision, "Do not be afraid, I'm your shield. Eliezer, I have no children." Okay, there's the... Okay, we just gone through the promise renewed and the sign of it. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so he numbered the stars. Okay, I was trying to see if this was a section that did mention Sarai or not, and I didn't see her name mentioned. So that's what I was just checking. So no, there wasn't immediately preceding this, that promise to Sarai, but there was the promise to Abraham, if you will. And so it's been 10 years since they've gone to the land, 10 years since the initial promise, and they're becoming impatient, and they're looking at the reality of the world around them and saying, this ain't happening fast, and then we're supposed to have the children that are the breath of the whole, can't count the stars, you can't count the sea. How is this going to happen? It hasn't happened. It's got to happen. Maybe we've looked at this wrong, Abram, and it's not me, but it's another. You're the one. The promise isn't to me, Sarai. It's to you, Abram. And so maybe we've just looked at this wrong. So let's try to rectify this situation. And they don't inquire of God. Abram just goes along with this. Okay, yeah, it sounds good. I'll agree with that. And then when the consequences or the fruit of that action comes to fruition, well, then they don't like the outcome. Why? Why does her slave mistreat her? Because she's pregnant by Abram. So yeah, I'm better than you. I'm able to have a child. You're not able to have a child. So that makes me better. At least that goes, so goes the thought there. So when she knows she's pregnant, she despises. So brings the problem. Hey, now my slave is doing this, and so what does Abram do? He doesn't take responsibility for his actions. He just pushes it back on his wife and says, "Do what you want. You just do what you want. It'll be fine." So she mistreats her slave. Her slave runs away. Okay. So now let's continue. Then the angel of the Lord told her, "Go back to your mistress and submit to her." The angel added, "I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count." The angel of the Lord said to her, "You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard of your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility towards all his brothers." She gave him the name, the Lord who spoke to her, "You are the God who sees me." For she said, "I have now seen the one who sees me." That is why the well was called Bir Lohai Rohi. It is still there between Kadesh and Barid. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram gave him the name Ishmael to the son she bore him. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael. Okay, so interesting things here. Now, I know it's been a few weeks since we read through the narrative of Mary and Joseph. However, look at how fascinatingly similar the words of the angel is to her. I find this fascinating. "You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son, and you shall name him Ishmael. Do not fear, Mary. What is conceived of you is of the Holy Ghost, and you shall give him the name Jesus." Very similar imagery and pageantry here. "For the Lord has heard of your misery. For you have been highly favored. The Lord has taken notice of you." So some similarities back and forth. Now the description of who the child will be follows. Here the description of who the child will be. Now I don't know about you, and maybe mothers are different than fathers in this regard, but if I hear this is the description of a kid of mine who is yet to be born, I'm going to not be excited about it. He's going to be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand will be against him. He'll live in hostility towards all his brothers. What? Why would I want that? Well, this doesn't sound like a blessing or a promise. This sounds awful. But it's profound. Now, it's interesting. I say that, but we'll see at different times where there's accurate things like this that are proclaimed over people that then take place. And but this doesn't seem to upset her. What she holds on to is, the Lord sees me. The Lord sees me, even me, a lowly servant. He sees me. That's what she's holding on to. And so she feels blessed by this. And so the other interesting thing is this is really the opposite of the promise to Abram that all nations through you will be blessed. And here, there's going to be hostility towards his brothers, and everyone's hand will be against him. It's like the opposite kind of thing. So anyway, then there's some dating to help us know. So Abram is 86, and so I believe we'll see that Ishmael is 14. Yeah, we're going to get into 99 years. So we're jumping ahead in our story again. So we don't get to hear about Ishmael's growing up years. We just get to hear about him now later on. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said, "I am God Almighty. Walk before me faithfully and be blameless. Then I will make my covenant between me and you and will greatly increase your numbers. Abram fell face down and said to him, as for me, this is my covenant with you. Oh, and God said to him, you will be the father of many nations. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham or Abraham. For I have made you a father of many nations. I will make you very fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings will come from you. I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you for the generations to come, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you. The whole land of Canaan, where you now reside as a foreigner, I will give as an everlasting possession to you and your descendants after you, and I will be their God. Okay, so when he's 99, so this has taken a while. Now, we've had God show up to him periodically along the way. The promise to begin with, we had the ratification of the promise and restatement, and now we have it again. Then God said to Abraham, oh, and now along with it, we have a name change. As for you, you must keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you for the generations to come. This is my covenant with you and your descendants after you, the covenant you are to keep. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You are to undergo circumcision, and it will be a sign of the covenant between me and you. For the generations to come, every male among you who is 8 days old must be circumcised, including those born in your household or bought with money from a foreigner, those who are not your offspring. Whether born in your household or bought with your money, they must be circumcised. My covenant in your flesh is to be an everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who has been circumcised in the flesh will be cut off, who has not been circumcised, in the flesh, will be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. Okay, interesting here. 8 days is when this is to take place. Fascinating thing within science that shows there are some hormones that take place that act as a natural anesthetic on that day. However, Abram's 99 years old. Okay, so not an interesting proposition there, and we'll see in other places as we go forward. People don't do well. They're usually weak and struggle to recover from this for a few days. So, but it's an everlasting covenant, and he who doesn't do it will have broken the covenant. However, if you're supposed to do this to your children on the 8th day, how is that child the one who broke the covenant if they're not able to do it to themselves? Interesting thought. Not going to explore it, just interesting thought. So, God also said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you are no longer to call her Sarai. Her name will be Sarah. I will bless her and will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nation. Kings of people will come from her. So maybe there wasn't a clarification of Sarai, to be the mother of Abraham's son, who was the son of the promise. Now clarification and name change. Both get a name change. Promise is again stated. So now we have Abraham fell face down. He laughed and said to himself, will a son be born of a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? And Abram said to God, if only Ishmael might live under your blessing. Oh, Abraham said to God, okay. So he's unable to think that this can happen. He's like, well, at least I have Ishmael. Couldn't it just be that? Then God said to him, yes. Oh, sorry, he's asking to live under the blessing. Maybe not the son of the covenant, but live under the blessing. Yes, but your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call his name Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after you. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. I will surely bless him. I will make him fruitful and will greatly increase his number. He will be the father of 12 rulers, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you by this time next year. When he finished speaking with Abraham, God went up from him. Okay, so as I was saying, if I heard the promise that the angel said of being a donkey of a man and everyone being an adversary, I too, as Abraham is saying, can you make my son Ishmael blessed too? Can you do that, God? You're telling me you're going to do something impossible. A 100-year-old and a 90-year-old woman having a kid. And so, God, you can do that. Can you bless my son? He says, sure. On that very day, Abraham took his son Ishmael and all those born in his household or bought with his money, every male in his household, and circumcised them as God told him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised, and his son Ishmael was 13. I'm wondering here out loud, a bar mitzvah, son of the commandment. Yes, you're supposed to be circumcised on the 8th day. However, a bar mitzvah happens at the age of 13. I wonder if there's a connection here with Ishmael. Don't know, just wondering, because that's usually when they celebrate a bar mitzvah when you become a man. Maybe there's something else that I don't know, but just interesting. Abraham and his son Ishmael were both circumcised on that very day, and every male in Abraham's household, including those born in his household or bought from a foreigner, was circumcised with him. The Lord appeared to Abraham near the great trees of Mamre while he was sitting at the entrance of his tent in the heat of the day. Abram looked up and saw 3 men standing nearby. Sorry, I have a phone vibrating. If I look at it. And it will stop. Okay. Abraham looked up and saw 3 men standing nearby. When he saw them, he hurried from the entrance of the tent to meet them, and he bowed low to the ground. He said, "If I have found favor in your eyes, my Lord, do not pass your servant by. Let a little water be brought, and then you may all wash your feet and rest under this tree. Let me get you something to eat, so you can be refreshed and then go on your way, now that you have come to your servant." "Very well," they answered. "Do as you say." Okay, so Abram sees 3 strangers, and he extends hospitality to them. Hospitality in a desert climate is an essential thing. You need to have people be that way, because when you're traveling and you don't have water, they know where it is. They need to extend it to you. He also washes their feet. Very interesting thing. So he is playing the role of the servant. He doesn't need to. He has servants who can do this. He does it himself. So Abram hurried into the tent to Sarah. "Quick," he said, "get 3 shays, of finest flour and knead it and bake some bread." Then he ran to the herd and selected a choice tender calf and gave it to a servant who hurried to prepare it. Then he brought some curds and milk and the calf that had been prepared and set these before them. While they ate, he stood near them under the tree. Okay, so that's going to take a while to cook. So this is not a quick job, although it's saying hurry to prepare. So they're doing this as in a quick manner. So now they're having a conversation. "Where is your wife Sarah?" they asked him. "There in the tent," he said. Then one of them said, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son." Now Sarah was listening at the entrance of the tent, which was behind him. Abram and Sarai were already very old, and Sarah was past the age of bearing children. So Sarah laughed to herself, and she thought, after I am worn out and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure? Then the Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, will I really have a child now that I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at this point next year, and Sarah will have a son. Sarah was afraid, so she lied and said, I did not laugh. But he said, yes, you did laugh. When the men got up and leave, they looked towards Sodom, and Abram walked along with them to see them on their way. Then the Lord said, shall I hide from Abram what I am about to do? Abram will surely become a great and powerful nation, Abraham, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him, so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. Then the Lord said, the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sin so grievous, that I will go down and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know. The men turned away and went toward Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Then Abram approached him and said, will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of 50 righteous people in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it for you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right? The Lord said, if I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Interesting thought here. This sounds very similar to some of the stuff we were reading in Job of how God is just and God doesn't punish the righteous for the sins of the ungodly. And so if there's righteous people in this city, it shouldn't be destroyed. That kind of thought process, which would make sense. Job is thought to have been a contemporary of Abraham. Okay, keeping going. Then Abraham spoke up again. Now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, though I am nothing but dust and ashes, what if the number of righteous is 5 less than 50? Will you destroy for the whole sake of city for the lack of 5 people? If I find 45 there, he said, I will not destroy it. Once again, he spoke to him. What if only 40 are found there? He said, for the sake of 40, I will not do it. Then he said, may the Lord not be angry, but let me speak. What if there are only 30 can be found there? He answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there. Abraham said, now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, what if only 20 can be found there? He said, for the sake of 20, I will not destroy it. Then he said, may the Lord not be angry, but let me speak just once more. What if only 10 can be found there? He answered, for the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. When the Lord had finished speaking with Abram, he left, and Abraham returned home. So, negotiations. Interesting. Starting at 50. Surely if there's 50 people now, just pick whatever town you live in. If there's only 50 righteous people in the town you live in, good. But whittling it all the way down. What if there's only 10? If there's only 10, will you not destroy it? Yeah, if there's only 10, I won't destroy it. Wow, that is such a small number. Such a small number, and yet that's a relationship. And yeah, the boldness here of Abraham to continue to, and he starts out at 50, goes by 5, and then he's increasing and going by 5, and then, gets to 30, and then jumps to 20, and then jumps to 10, So starts out slow and starts seeing this is going the way I want, and then where do I stop? Where can I stop? Do you think Abraham thought there were 10? I think he did. I think he probably did think there might have been 50 until he said it, and then was like, there probably aren't 50, Yeah, that's going to be a stretch. How about, what if there's only 5 short? Does that, well, this was 45. Oh, I think it's and then finally he's like, yeah, I surely hope there's 10. I think there's probably 10. I could probably find 10. But we know that's not what happened. So, the 2 angels arrive at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. My lords, he said, please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night and then go on your way early in the morning. Okay, so Abraham shows hospitality to 3 strangers. Lot sees 2 strangers and extends the same. So there is the custom, and he practices it. He's learned it from Abraham. He's following it, even in the midst of the city. No, they answered, we will spend the night in the square. But he insisted so strongly that they did go with him and entered his house. He prepared a meal for them, baking bread without yeast, and they ate it. Notice the difference here. Abraham has time. Though he's hurrying, he has time. Here, no time, bakes bread without yeast. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called to Lot, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out so that we can have sex with them. Lot went outside to meet with them and shut the door behind him. He said, no, my friends, don't do this wicked thing. Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof. Get out of our way, they replied. This fellow came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them. They kept bringing pressure on Lot and moving forward to break down the door. But the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness, so that they could not find the door. The 2 men said to Lot, do you have anyone else here, son-in-laws, sons, or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place. For the outcry of the Lord against its people is so great that he sent us to destroy it. So Lot went out and spoke to his son-in-laws, who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city. But his son-in-laws thought he was joking. Okay, I'm just going to pause right there. Why would they think he was joking? Either they think that it's such a ludicrous thing that they think he's joking, or Lot, from time to time, may have told jokes of some kind. And so they think this is either just him pulling a fast one, trying to prank us for some reason, or it's just so ridiculous that he's got to be joking. There's just no way that this could happen. It's just unbelievable, which is interesting. We've been talking about if this truth had been in Sodom. We just read that. Jesus saying, if the miracles I had done had been done in Sodom, they would have repented. Here we have a chance for a few people to flee for their lives who are warned, and they don't. Also interesting enough, Abraham only asked for the city to not be destroyed if he finds 10 righteous there. He doesn't ask for Lot to be warned about it. Interesting. Doesn't ask for Lot to be warned. He just asks that the city might not be destroyed. Then also, as they're going into the city, Lot happens to see the men, and he extends hospitality. That's And then his actions to defend them is what brings about the warning. Now, maybe if the action at the door didn't happen, the warning would have still taken place. But his actions in extending and keeping the protection on them because they entered his house is good. Now, we could get into the actions of giving his daughters and that. If we do, we'll get sidetracked here for a while. I think it's an awful thought, but it's an example of the extension of which he wants to protect them. I don't think he's intending to give his daughters. I think he's just saying it in giving extending them something they won't accept to get them to not come after what they're trying to get. I think that's what's happening, but we could debate and look at other things. Like I said, don't want to get bogged down in that, so let's just keep going. So they thought he was joking. With the coming of the dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you'll be swept away with the city when the city is punished." When he hesitated, the men grasped his hands and the hands of his wife and his 2 daughters and led them safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. As soon as they had brought them out, one of them said, "Flee for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains or you will be swept away." Okay, so he warns them. He goes to try to get his son-in-laws. The son-in-laws won't come. He knows it's coming. They say go. They won't go. He grabs them all. They grab him by the hand. They lead him out of the city. They tell him to flee and don't look back and don't stop. Go to the mountains. Don't stop in the plain. You won't be safe. Keep going. But Lot said to them, "No, my lord, please. Your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in sparing my life. Can I flee? But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me, and I'll die. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared." He said to him, "Very well, I will grant your request too." Not only Abraham's request, but Lot's request. "I will not overthrow the town you speak of, but flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it." That is why the town was called Zoar. Okay, let's see. Genesis 19. Okay. And we're in, let's go 23. That'll be easy. That's why the town is called Zoar. So, Zoar. Insignificance. Oh, there you go. Yes, it's a great name for the town. Insignificance. Okay, that was worth looking. By the time Lot reached Insignificant, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, destroying all those living in the cities and also the vegetation in the land. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land like smoke from a furnace. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. Lot and his 2 daughters left Zoar, and they settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. He and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. Okay, so he was told to flee to the mountains, said, that won't work for me. I can't make it. I'll die. I can't go there. Let me go over to this little insignificant town, Zoar, insignificance, and I can make it there. Just spare that little town. So they do. Now he's living there, and he's like, I can't stay here. This is, just doesn't work. What a catastrophe is going to come here too. So I've got to get out. It's just too devastating. I got to get. So I'm going to go to the mountains where you told me to go to the first place. Why doesn't he go to Abraham? He clearly has lost all the stuff he had, all of his possessions and everything in the city. You know, whatever he had not lost of his flocks and his servants and all of that he had that was too great to be in the same place as Abraham. Why doesn't he return to Abraham at this point? That's what I want to know. Instead, he goes to the mountains. And one day the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man around here to give us children, as in the custom all over the earth. Let's get our father to drink wine and then sleep with him and preserve perverse is also happening. Preserve our family line through our father." Yeah, this is just a not so fun story. And why don't they talk to their father instead and say, "Hey, there's no men around here. We need to get husbands, Dad. When are you going to get us husbands? We had men promised to us. They didn't come with us. We need husbands." That's not the solution they come up with. They come up with a worse solution. So yeah, and the younger goes along with the older. You're like, well, why would she? Well, the older was convincing, and it made logical sense, and you've got nobody else to talk you out of it. That night, they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and slept with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down and when she got up. The next day, the older daughter said to the younger, "Last night I slept with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight, and you go in and sleep with him, so we can preserve our family line through our father." So they got their father to drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went in and slept with him again. He was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. I think that there's an important piece in there talking about Lot in regards to some of his culpability. He was not in hearty approval of this plan. He was perhaps the victim of this plan. However, he could have resisted drinking the wine and could have said, "Yeah, I've had enough. I don't need to get drunk." But he goes along with that part. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter had a son, and she named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. The younger daughter had a son, and she named him Ben-Amin. And he is the father of the Ammonites Ammonites of today. Okay, so I want to go back and look at, here is Moabites here. Do we have the Ammonites? That's Amorite, not Ammonite. Amorite. Ammon. So right here, possibly the Ammonites. And Edom, which we'll get to later. So these are some of the lands of those who are related, and we'll see later on, don't do all of the nicest things towards the people. So, all right, so that is not a fun section to read through. Some sin happening, some justice happening, and the seeds of bad things happening. So yeah, people coming up with their own plans, and interesting how it starts with Sarai and Abraham coming up with a plan to have a child, and this section ends with Lot's daughters coming up with a plan to have children, and neither one were blessings of God, but end up being nations that are impacting God's people. So interesting stuff there. Thanks all those for joining in today. Hope you gathered something beneficial out of God's